I was standing at the kitchen counter making my usual morning coffee when my phone buzzed. It was early, too early for anyone to be texting me. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just spam. But then I saw the preview on the lock screen. Photo. I unlocked my phone and froze. There he was, my husband, in a dimly lit restaurant booth. One arm draped around a woman I didn't recognize, his face buried in her neck. She was laughing, clearly enjoying herself. Below the image was a message that made my stomach drop. Just thought you should know where he was last night. At first, I couldn't move. I just stood there, phone in hand, staring at the picture. My mind kept trying to explain it away. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was photoshopped. Maybe it was some horrible joke. But deep down, I knew it was real. I felt heat rise to my face. My chest tightened and my hands shook as I zoomed in his watch, his shirt, the little scar on his wrist. No doubt it was him, and that definitely wasn't me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there in silence, the coffee pot hissing behind me, suddenly irrelevant. After a moment, I set my phone down and walked to the living room where his briefcase sat on the couch, just like every other normal morning. He was still upstairs in the shower. I had two choices: storm upstairs and demand answers, or wait, think, plan. I chose the second. I opened his laptop. No password. Rookie mistake. I pulled up his emails, his calendar, his messages, and what do you know? Dinner reservations, Uber receipts, hotel bookings all lined up like puzzle pieces. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to myself. My hands were steady now. If he thought a random photo from his mistress was going to ruin me, he had no idea who he married. Let him finish his shower. Let him put on that fake morning smile. I had just started digging, and I wasn't stopping until I buried him. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. It started smaller, new cologne I hadn't bought him. When I asked, he said a coworker gave it to him as a birthday gift. You like it? He asked, grinning. I nodded even though the scent made my skin crawl. Too sharp, too unfamiliar. Then there were the business trips. At first they made sense. His job at the tech company kept him traveling conferences, client meetings, retreats. But the excuses became flimsy. One weekend in Chicago turned into 4 days. His return flights were always delayed. Once he came home with sunburn on his nose after a conference in Seattle. Seattle had been cloudy that entire week. He started guarding his phone, like it was made of gold, always face down, always on silent. If I reached for it to hand it to him, his whole body tensed. When I asked what he was hiding, he laughed it off. Said I was being paranoid. He made me feel crazy, and I let him. That morning, after seeing the photo, something inside me shifted. All the little excuses and lies came crashing down like glass. I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by receipts and notes, trying to connect the dots. But it wasn't enough. I needed real proof. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. I used the savings I'd been setting aside for a solo vacation. I didn't even hesitate. His name was Colin, a soft-spoken man with sharp eyes who looked like he'd seen too many marriages fall apart. When I told him what I suspected, he just nodded once. I'll get you what you need, he said. A week later, he delivered photos. Dozens of them. My husband checking into hotels with the same woman from the photo, the one who texted me. They weren't even being careful. Holding hands in public, kissing in parking lots. Restaurant bills with timestamps that lined up perfectly with nights he'd told me he was working late. Colin even found a trail of money transfers. He was paying for her rent. I spent the entire night going through everything, organizing the files, printing things out, labeling dates. I made a spreadsheet. I made copies. I didn't know what I was going to do with all of it yet, but I knew I needed to have everything ready. I wanted the truth in my hands. And I wanted to be ready for war, because now I had proof not just of betrayal, but of everything he'd tried to hide behind that smile he gave me every morning. The same smile I used to believe in. Not anymore. I didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I smiled like nothing was wrong, kissed him on the cheek every morning, asked about his day like I cared, laughed at his tired jokes over dinner. I became the perfect clueless wife. He had no idea I'd already seen everything. One night, as he poured himself a glass of wine, I casually mentioned, "You know what I've been thinking about lately? A little getaway, just you and me, somewhere quiet." He froze just for a second, barely noticeable, but I caught it. Then he recovered, smiling too wide. Yeah, that sounds great, babe. We could look into something next month. Next month was his go-to deflection. It bought him time. Time to schedule around her. I leaned into it. Over the next few days, I kept bringing up little vacation ideas. I printed brochures, left open tabs on the laptop. Once I mentioned a spa resort and watched his face tighten. It was the same resort he'd taken her to last spring. He didn't realize I knew that. It became a game. Every time he lied, I added another note to my file. While he was at meetings, I was meeting with a divorce lawyer. Her name was Rachel. Calm and terrifying in the best possible way. I laid out everything. Photos, bank records, timeline. She didn't flinch. She just nodded and started mapping a plan. You've got a strong case, she said. You play this smart, you'll walk away with what you need and then some. That was the goal. Back home, I kept up the act. Asked him about his long hours, offered to do his laundry, smiled as I folded shirts that reeked of her perfume. It was sickening, but I needed him to believe everything was normal. That he'd gotten away with it, that I was still in the dark. Every night I lay next to him, listening to his steady breath, wondering how he could sleep so peacefully with that kind of betrayal in his chest. I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt focused, cold. I wasn't just keeping my enemy close, I was keeping him exactly where I needed him until it was time to strike. I made a fake profile, just a simple one, a smiling photo I found online, a vague bio, and a few posts to make it look real. Then I sent her a message. It didn't take long for her to reply. She was eager, almost too eager. I told her I was just another girl who had been with him, someone who felt used and lied to, that I wanted to talk, compare stories. We agreed to meet in a quiet little coffee shop across town. She wore big sunglasses and too much perfume, looking around like she was meeting someone for a secret mission. I waited a beat, then walked right up to her. Hi, I'm the wife, I said. She blinked once, twice. Then she smirked, pulled off her glasses, and leaned back in her chair like she was settling in to enjoy a show. Oh, she said, smiling like this was something she'd been waiting for. So the little wife finally shows up. I sat down across from her, calm, quiet. I let her talk. You must have known, she said. No woman is that clueless. Honestly, I figured. You were just ignoring it, trying to keep him. Pathetic. Really. I didn't respond. He told me you were boring, she continued, swirling her coffee like this was just gossip between friends. That you stopped trying, that you were more like a roommate than a wife. She laughed. I mean, you can't blame the guy. Still, I said nothing. I just watched her. The smug little smile never left her face. She thought she'd won. She thought I was there to beg, to cry, to make a scene. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Finally, I reached into my purse and slid a folded piece of paper across the table. She opened it. It was a copy of our marriage certificate. He's still legally married, I said, my voice flat. Every dinner, every hotel room, every kiss, you were sleeping with a married man. And in this state, that matters a lot. Her face fell just slightly. The smile twitched. Oh, and one more thing, I added. He's being served next week on your little weekend getaway. You might want to pack light. She stared at me, speechless for the first time. I stood up, slung my purse over my shoulder, and smiled. You can keep him, I said. I'm done sharing. And I walked out, leaving her sitting there with nothing but her cold coffee and a new understanding of what it felt like to lose. I spent the next few days gathering everything. Marriage certificate, check. Joint bank statements, every mysterious withdrawal, every hotel charge, every time he paid her rent, check. Printouts of the private investigator's photos, labeled with dates and locations, check. I organized it all into a thick file folder and handed it to Rachel, my lawyer. She flipped through it like she was browsing a menu. This is perfect, she said. You've done half my job for me. I smiled. It was the first real smile I'd had in weeks. What's the most inconvenient moment we can hit him with the papers? I asked. Rachel looked up, her eyes gleaming. Well, when's his next romantic getaway? It didn't take long to find out. He'd been sloppy lately, left an open confirmation email on our shared tablet. 2 nights in a lakeside cabin, just him and her. Private hot tub, fire pit, cute little couples escape. I circled the date in red. Rachel made the arrangements. A legal process server would show up at the cabin, documents in hand, served right in front of her. I want him to remember this every time he tries to play the victim, I said. You're going to own this moment, she replied. The days leading up to it felt surreal. I kept playing the role. Packed his overnight bag for him, smiled as he kissed me goodbye. Work retreat, he said, throwing in that same tired excuse. Have fun, I told him. He had no idea what was coming. They arrived at the bed and breakfast just after 4 p.m., like clockwork. I watched from my car, parked a short distance away, tucked behind a row of trees lining the gravel lot. I didn't need to see much, just enough to confirm they were there hand in hand, grinning like smug teenagers skipping school. She wore a short floral dress and a wide-brimmed hat, like she was starring in some romantic movie. He had on the sweater I bought him last Christmas. I watched him hold the door for her, like a gentleman, as if he hadn't just left his wife at home, packing his lies. 10 minutes later, the process server walked in. Rachel had picked him well professional, stone-faced, and sharp. He carried a manila envelope under one arm and approached the front desk like any other guest checking in. I stayed in the car, engine off, heart pounding. The server waited until they'd finished signing in at the front desk. Then, as the innkeeper handed over the room key and wished them a relaxing stay, he stepped forward. "Excuse me," the server said, loud enough for the whole small lobby to hear. "Are you husband's full name?" My husband blinked. Yeah." The man pulled the envelope from under his arm and held it out. "You've been served. Divorce proceedings, infidelity, financial misconduct. Enjoy your weekend." Silence. The mistress went pale, the smile vanishing from her face like it had been slapped off. She looked at my husband, waiting for him to deny it, to say it was a mistake. He couldn't just stood there, lips parted, frozen. The innkeeper, a sweet older woman with bright white hair and a stack of guest brochures, leaned over the counter, frowning. "Sir, is there a problem?" "No, it sits fine," he stammered, grabbing the envelope, like it was on fire. The mistress stepped back, like she was afraid it might be contagious. "What the hell is this?" she hissed. "You said you were separated." The innkeeper turned red. "Excuse me, are you not married to your wife?" He couldn't answer. They both turned to leave, the woman storming out first, her heels clacking angrily on the floor. He followed her, calling her name. The process server turned and walked out, calm as ever, passing by my car with a small, satisfied nod. I smiled. Check-in was over. Checkmate. He came home the next night, slamming the front door so hard it rattled the frame. I was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, waiting. "What the hell was that?" he shouted. "You embarrassed me in public." I didn't even flinch. "You embarrassed yourself." He threw his hands up. "You've been spying on me, hiring lawyers behind my back. What is wrong with you?" I looked him dead in the eye. "What's wrong with me?" "You've been sleeping with someone else for over a year, paying her rent, lying to my face, and now you want to play the victim." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand. Things haven't been right between us for a long time." "Oh, don't give me that," I said, standing. "You didn't want to fix anything. You wanted to cheat and still come home to a clean house and a warm dinner. You wanted your backup plan to stay in place while you played house with her. You're twisting everything." I walked past him, calm and slow, and picked up the file folder off the dining table. I held it up. Hotel receipts, photos, bank transfers. "You didn't even try to hide it. You just assumed I'd be too stupid to figure it out." He stared at the folder like it might explode. "I'm moving out tomorrow," I said. "Already spoke to Rachel. I'm taking what's legally mine, so don't even try to stop me. You can't just I can and I will." The next morning, I packed my things while he sulked in the kitchen. I didn't say a word, just grabbed my clothes, my books, my keepsakes. The movers arrived at 10 sharp. By the afternoon, I was gone. Within days, the news had spread. His sister called me and apologized, said she couldn't believe what he did. His old college friend, the one who always joked about guy code, sent me a message saying he was disgusted. Even his mother left me a voicemail. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. You didn't deserve that." He thought he'd get away with it. Instead, he ended up alone, surrounded by silence and shame. And I was already starting over. It had been 3 weeks since I walked out. 3 peaceful, silent, beautifully still weeks. No shouting, no lying, no second-guessing myself every time my phone buzzed. Then one night, just after midnight, my phone lit up again. Unknown number. At first, I ignored it, But the messages kept coming one after another. Desperate. Please, I didn't know. Can we talk? He did it to me too. I stared at the screen, heart steady. I knew who it was. I didn't answer right away. I let her sit in the quiet she once helped create. 10 minutes later, she called. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Her voice was different, this time, shaky small. No sign of that smug tone she wore like lipstick the last time we spoke. I'm sorry, she said, already crying. I didn't know. I thought he was leaving you. I thought I was different. Stayed silent. He's been seeing someone else, she whispered. For months, some girl from his gym, half my age. He lied to me about her the same way he lied about you. I said nothing, just let the words hang. I feel so stupid, she continued. He told me he loved me, that you were cold, that he had no choice. I finally spoke. That's the same story. He told me about you. She started sobbing. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not really. Maybe a little, but mostly, I felt nothing. I just wanted to tell you, she said. You didn't deserve what happened. I'm sorry I sent you that photo. I thought you needed to know, but I also wanted to hurt you. You did, I said simply. But not anymore. I don't know what to do now, she whispered. There was a long pause. And then I said the only thing I could. You can have him. Whatever's left, the broken pieces, the lies, the emptiness. I'm done carrying them. She went quiet again. Maybe she expected comfort. Maybe she thought we'd bond over being played by the same man. But I wasn't there to share in her pain. I was done being anyone's collateral damage. I ended the call without saying goodbye, blocked the number, and placed the phone face down on the table. He had fooled her too, but now she knew the truth, just like I did. The difference? I walked away. She was still picking up the pieces. The courtroom was cold and quiet, all wood panels and sharp echoes. I sat in my best blazer, papers neatly stacked in front of me, my lawyer by my side. Across the aisle, he looked like a ghost of himself, pale, jittery eyes, darting like he was waiting for someone to rescue him. No one was coming. Rachel handled everything with calm precision. She presented our case clearly, the documented infidelity, the hidden financials, the double life. The judge barely asked questions. There was nothing to argue. The evidence spoke for itself. When the mistress's name came up, he squirmed. When the photos were entered into the record, he stared at the table. And when his own signature showed up on the rent agreement for her apartment, his lawyer leaned over and whispered something that made him sink even lower in his seat. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there and let the truth speak louder than any words I could have said. By the end of it, the judge ruled in my favor. I kept the house, a large share of our assets, even the car he had forgotten was in my name. He tried to argue for visitation rights with the dog. He lost that too. The final blow came later. His company found out about the court case. They had a strict code of conduct, especially for employees and management. Cheating on your spouse didn't technically break any rules. But the misuse of company funds, he'd used his corporate card on a few dates, did. They fired him within the week. When Rachel called to tell me, I didn't feel joy. Not exactly. I just felt free. No more lies. No more pretending. No more carrying the weight of someone else's secret life on my shoulders. I drove home that night with the windows down, letting the wind hit my face. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The war was over, and I had won. The sun was warm on my shoulders as I leaned back in the lounge chair, drink in hand, sunglasses on, the sound of ocean waves crashing in the distance. Laughter echoed nearby. My new friends, people I'd met just days ago who already felt more like family than anyone I'd known in years. For the first time, I felt light, not fake smile at dinner light. Real, deep, steady peace. I hadn't checked my phone all day, and when I finally did, it wasn't to worry. It was just a quick snap of the moment, me smiling, glowing, alive. I took a selfie with the beach in the background, my glass raised in a quiet toast to no one and everyone. Then I opened our old message thread. The last one from him was still sitting there, unread. Can we talk? I didn't reply. Instead, I attached the photo and typed the message slowly, letting each word settle in before I hit send. Just thought you should know where I am now. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't care if he blocked me, cried, through his phone, or showed it to his newest fling. That message wasn't for him. It was for me. For the woman who once sat in a kitchen with shaking hands and a broken heart. For the woman who pretended not to know just so she could survive one more day. For the woman who finally stood up, walked out, and never looked back. I locked my phone, set it face down on the table, and stood up. The ocean stretched out before me, wide and endless. No lies, no secrets, just sky and water and space. I walked toward the water, toes in the sand, each step lighter than the last. And behind me, nothing worth returning to.